How's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me? All the way in the back. Okay. First, I'd like to thank everyone here for being here at this meeting. I'd like to thank the person that gave Paul the commitment, and Paul called me and asked me to come up. And I tried to get out of it yesterday because of the weather. Paul stayed persistent. He said, well, if you ain't going, I'll go speak by myself. I said, well, give me another week. And he wouldn't give me another week. So I was arguing with him on the phone last night. My wife said, how far did you go to get high? You know, and I actually came from Hartford all the way to this state right here and got high one night. I woke up here one morning. I'm supposed to introduce myself. But before I do that, just everybody, you know, so it won't be no disruption. And everybody just say hi to the person next door to you. I mean, just say hi. That's how we do it. What's going on? Yeah, there you go. Everybody do that, you know, get it all out. And everybody got their phones off, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. I introduce myself. My name is Bill Stevens, and I introduce with my last name. We're not anonymous amongst each other in AA. We're anonymous at the level of press, radio, and film. Amongst each other, we're not anonymous. Okay, so my name is Bill Stevens, and I am a recovered alcoholic, not a recovering alcoholic. I am a recovered alcoholic. Okay, that's the first promise on the first page of the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you turn to that page, it says the story of how thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. So I recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. Mentally, I have not had the mental obsession since March 4th, 1994. That's my sobriety date. I'm in my 21st year of sobriety. I have not had the physical craving, okay, since March 9th, 1994. Okay, and spiritually, I'm connected to God. Therefore, I have recovered this moment, this day, as it says in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day, our daily bread. So this day, I am recovered mentally, physically, and spiritually, I'm connected to God. Okay, and when I sit down with my sponsor, every time we meet, we invite God in. And I'm going to ask Paul to do a reading. I just like to invite God. I know he's already here, been here since 47? 44? So he ain't left and went nowhere. I just want to invite him again. Okay. Paul.
Set aside prayer. God, we invite you into this room to guide and direct both of us as we seek your truth. Father, please set aside within each of us that which would block us from the truth. Lay aside our prejudices about what we think we know about this process, this meeting, and our spiritual condition. Remove our fears, Lord, that we may hear the truth as your Spirit reveals it to us. Give us the strength and courage to share your truth with each other in a real spirit of love and compassion for our fellows. Amen.
Amen. All right. Okay, so I do not call myself recovering for 3 reasons. Okay, there's 3 reasons why I don't introduce myself as a recovering. And you hear people 25, 30 years still saying they're recovering. Okay, the first reason why I do not introduce myself as a recovering out, and I got 3 big books up here. The first reason is because it denies the newcomer the truth about what's in the big book. I know this looks small, but this is just, they printed a 164 page of the big book, if you guys don't know. So, but it denies the newcomer about the truth that's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It denies it. That's the first reason why I do not introduce myself as a recovering alcoholic. The second reason I do not introduce myself as a recovering alcoholic, because it also denies what God has done for me and what God has done for countless others. You know, I'm sober, and I'm only sober through the grace of God. Nothing I did puts me up here. You see what I'm saying? I had to do a lot of work. You understand what I'm saying? But the work I had to do was against myself. On page 62 in the big book, it says selfishness and self-centeredness. That we believe is the root of our troubles. So I had to work on my selfishness and my self-centeredness, you know, and I had to listen to a sponsor, you know. And the first thing that I was told when I first came in was, and I heard the speaker say that earlier, was to shut up. And I had a hard time doing that, very hard time. But anyway, and the third reason why I don't say that I'm a recovering alcoholic, because recovery is about change. I'll say that again. Recovery is about change. Okay? I could say things, and I could do things, and I could say we're all sick. You know, we're all sick. And I could use my behavior and just blame that we're all sick. I'm still recovering. Recovery is about change. You see what I'm saying? So it is an excuse for inappropriate behavior. You know, it's about change. I need to change my behavior. And you guys let me know that all the time. Okay, I can't see this disease. I can only feel it. You see it. You see, I act out on it. That's what I do. Okay? I'm supposed to tell y'all in a general way what I was like. Okay? If I could figure it out. You know, I've been trying to figure that out for a long time. But what happened, but I can give you a clear picture on what it's like right now. That's what I heard from the first speaker, what it's like right now. You know, and just to start that, I can start out by saying that our first step. You guys want to hear steps or you want to hear a war story? All right, those who want to hear a war story, raise your hand. Okay, you ain't done yet? Okay, those that want to hear a war story, raise your hand. See how all them hands went down? See, we're done with that. Okay, we're finished. Are there any professional alcoholics and addicts in this house? Raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand. All the professionals are done. Okay, so anyway, so I'm supposed to tell you in a general way what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like right now. And I have to start out by saying our first step, our first principle. And principles are fundamental truths. That's basically what they are. They're spiritual truths. In the 12 of 12, it says it's a spiritual axiom. That's basically every time I'm disturbed, but it's a spiritual, and an axiom is the truth. Okay, so the first thing I had to do when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I actually got to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 25 years old. That was in 1981. I did not get sober and clean until 1994. So I relapsed for 13 years. I was in and out, in and out, in and out. Don't drink, go to meetings type of guy. You know what I mean? That's where I was at. Okay, so anyway, so it says, so if I go back, you know, I'm born in Hartford. Everybody knows that. And I was born in the projects. I have family that actually live in Philly. Okay, but I can't find them anymore. They was there when I was younger, and my cousin Kevin and all my family, most of the ones that's my age, they done died. They died on the streets. They died from addiction and all of that, because this disease wipes out families. So I have family here, but I can't find them. I don't know who they are, where they at. You know, the last time I was here, I was in oblivion. The last time I was in Philly, I came here in a blackout, and I ended up at the Spectrum. Okay, I don't know if that building's still there, if that place is still there. I saw Isaac Hayes, okay, and I came in the year when they had that record out, For the Love of the Money, the OJs, okay? And that's how, and I ended up here and I came here. And I saw Isaac Hayes there, I saw Al Green there, and Al Green came out, and I think you guys booed, everybody in Philly booed him, and then Isaac Hayes came out, and then he took the whole show. And that was the last time I was here, and it's all a blackout. But anyway, when I look at the first step, it says that I'm powerless. And what does powerless mean? The ability to act to full capacity. I do not have the ability to act to full capacity. You know, I just do not. I'm powerless. Okay, so if I go back, how many guys in here remember Christmas and believed in Santa Claus? Raise your hand. Everybody, we all believed in Santa Claus. And you know, you better watch out, you better not pout and all of that crap. You know, and I believed in him too. And I remember I made my Santa Claus list. And when I made my Santa Claus list, I put down what I wanted for Christmas. I wanted a train. And Paul, do not let no one take this. It's mine. Okay? And that's what I put on my list. And that's a train that goes all the way back to the 50s and 60s. Now, I'm a product of the 60s, okay? And, you know, you can let them, they can pass it around. They can hold it, pass it around, okay? And so I wanted that train, and I got my train. I'm from a family of 9, okay? And I remember, on page 62, it says selfishness and self-centeredness. That, we believe, is the root of our troubles, okay? Alcohol, it's not saying that alcohol is our problem, okay? Alcohol is a symptom of our disease. Okay, and then it also says on page 62, resentment is the #1 offender. It says resentment destroys more alcoholics than anything else. Okay, so as a young child, okay, when I was coming, before I ever touched alcohol, I had alcoholism. You understand what I'm saying? Because alcoholism is the selfishness and self-centeredness. Okay, that's basically what it is. Mine, my train, I'm right, you don't know nothing, you know. So it's always... So as a child, I put down my list and I waited for Christmas. But as a child, I had other ideas. Page 27, it talks about change. It says ideas, emotions, and attitudes. How I think, how I react from my thinking, and then my attitude is my action, what I do, which were the guiding forces of these men and women in here. I suddenly set aside. That's why he read the set aside prayer. And what happened to me in Alcoholics Anonymous, a completely new set of ideas, emotions, and attitudes began to dominate me. So I had to change mentally, I had to change physically, and I had to change spiritually. Okay, so anyway, so I got my train, I got my list, and just real briefly, I always had to be right. How many of y'all can relate to that? It was very important for me to seek approval. It was always, look what I did. Whenever I did something, I needed approval. Because I always felt like I didn't measure up in my family. I always felt like I was the white sheep in my family. Y'all got me? You white people, y'all say the black sheep. Y'all talk about white knuckle sobriety. I did black knuckle sobriety. But that's how I felt. You know what I mean? I just felt like I didn't belong. How many of y'all can relate to that? You know, and I couldn't wait until I grew up. I couldn't wait to be on my own. I couldn't wait to get away from my family. Now, just briefly about my family. My father, on my father's side, my father's from Georgia. And in Georgia, my grandfather is a minister of a church. He's a Christian. Okay? Now, remember now, on page 47, go to page 47, please, in your book, page 47, top page. Okay? Okay? This is my conception of my God. Okay, go ahead.
When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies too to other spiritual expressions which you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. At the start, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth. Okay, stop here. Okay, so if you're new here, that's all you need, your own conception of God. So I came in here and I had my own conception from a child. Because on my mother's side, my mother's grandparents, my grandparents on my mother's side, he also was a preacher in Connecticut. So I had preachers on both sides. And I made up my mind a long time ago that God, in step 2, okay? Because step 2 says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That God, and you couldn't tell me different. Because what I was seeing, and in Bill's story talks about what he's seen on TV, the chicanery, you know, the burning, what happened in Europe. You know, and he said if there was a God, he said, so I felt like Bill. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? So I felt like him. So anyway, I felt, now don't laugh at me, and I know I'm in Philadelphia, and I know y'all ain't got no trees here. It ain't like Connecticut, and y'all ain't got no room. You know, maybe in the woods, but not in Philly, so I ain't gonna get hung here. Okay, but I felt that white people invented God to control black people. So I was screwed up from the beginning. Okay, so I got my Santa Claus. My Santa Claus came, I got my train. And alcoholics, we are like isolators. We like to be alone. You understand what I'm saying? We don't want nobody by. So I got my train and I went in the corner and I started playing with my train. And then my brother wanted to play with my train. And I said, no. Then he kept asking me. I said, no, you got toys over there. I said, no. Now remember, resentment destroys the container that holds it. So if you got resentment inside of you, it's going to destroy you. In the big book, it calls fear evil and corroding thread. Okay, so resentment is just like that. It's like acid. Okay, and it eats you away. You know. So, and I haven't picked up alcohol, but I'm alcoholic. I got the alcoholic thinking. I have an alcoholic mind. Okay, so so he says no. I say no. So then he goes and get my father. And then my father comes over and my father says, Billy, let him play with it. I says no. And then my father said, why? And I'm an alcoholic. I can tell you why. Why? He's going to break it. Am I correct? And then y'all know what my father said. Give it to him or I'll what? My father was trying to teach me how to share. That was in my 4th step. And anyway, make a long story short, what happened was he took it away from me. Now remember, I did not remember that. Okay? Because when we have a resentment in step 4, when we resent somebody, okay, it's refilling.
And then we forget everything that happened, but we still have the resentment. It's still there. And then it just starts taking over. Okay? So what had happened was, make a long story short, my father took my toy. I'm pissed off. I'm angry. And now I can't wait to leave that home. I just can't wait. So at the age of 16, on my 16th birthday, because I also thought not only did white people invent God, but they also invented education. Okay? So that was all brainwashing. So I didn't want to have nothing to do with that either. So on my 16th birthday, I quit school. Okay? Now, also on my 16th birthday, just to complete step one, is when I took my first drink. Now, I knew what alcohol was. I knew what it did. And Bill Wilson said alcohol is the glue that holds the alcoholic together. Alcohol for this alcoholic was a spiritual awakening. It changed me. You see what I mean? It was a spirit. It made things change. And I don't have to go on. It changed everything. Like that commercial, you ever see that little black guy? He said, what's going to change? It changes everything. You know that little guy, little short guy? But that's what happened. So real quick, I remember I was working with my father in this town called Burlington. I was working for this rich guy as judge and everything. And I'll make a long story short, I was raking the leaves. And what I had to do was I would rake the leaves, and I'd put all the leaves in a sack. And then I put them in a wheelbarrow, because they didn't have leaf blowers when I was a kid. Then I wheel the wheelbarrow down to a pond, a lake, not a lake, but a river. And then I throw the leaves in there. And then if I got done quick enough, you know what I mean, I could go fishing, because the guy had boats and all of that, and fishing stuff, all of that. We have a lot of that in Connecticut. So, and I knew that, but I could never get done enough. And then me and my father would go in the woods and we would hunt. And we would hunt squirrel, rabbit, and all kinds of game and all of that. So that's how my Saturdays consisted, because my father couldn't leave me in the hood, couldn't leave me in the streets, because I started getting in trouble. I started stealing and doing all of that other stuff, another story. But anyway, so what had happened was, I remember my father said, drinking, you can drink. Because he's telling me, you know, the birds about the birds and the bees, you know, your father's telling you. So he's telling me, you can drink, Bill, because if you work, because I'm just about to turn 16 years old, and you do your job, you can have a drink. You see what I'm saying? And but don't do that stuff, that wacky weed and all that other stuff. You understand? Because that stuff makes you crazy. Okay? And I'm a junior, so my father had dreams for me. He had ideas for me. You know what I mean? So what this disease was doing to me, it already started as a child, started taking from me. It already started alienating me from my family. And I remember my father said that alcohol puts hair on your chest. Now, if you guys look at my chest, I still ain't got a scream, okay? That's a resentment I have. I envy guys with hair on their chest. You understand what I'm saying? But that was one of the things he said, because my father had a hairy chest. So that day I took a drink, okay, just not to keep from going all into it. And after I took that drink, I remember, in the big book, it says men and women drink essentially because we like the effect produced by alcohol. Okay, why we admit it's injurious, that means I'll go out and start a fight with somebody, probably get shot. Injurious. Alcohol is injurious, because I'll slap a cop. I've done that before. How many of y'all ever slap a cop? You want to get sober? Fastest way to get sober? Slap a cop. Now they're shooting us now, but anyway. AA has no vision. AA has no opinion on outside issues. Okay. But I do. But anyway. So what had happened was I took that drink that day. And it says, while we admit it is in, we can't, after a time, to differentiate, tell the difference from the real and the false. We cannot. You know what I mean? And also in the big book, it says we were in full flight from reality. Now, it sounds like I was in full flight from reality way before I ever picked up the drink. Okay? So when I picked up the drink, I raked the leaves that day. I'll never forget it, because he told me the week before on the way home. So the next week, I drank, because he had Fresca soda in his cooler. And I remember when it was the first citrus tree, and he had Black Label, the little ponies, okay? And I remember it vividly. Only an alcoholic can remember his first drink. Only an alcoholic. That's a non-alcoholic. What was your first drink? What difference does it make? Doesn't mean nothing to them. But only us. And I remember I drank that. And I remember it went down. And I didn't like the taste, but I felt that fire. And all of a sudden, I was this person. You know what I mean? And I can do just like the promises. I can look the world in the eye. You know, my fears fell from me. I had courage. I was different. You know what I mean? And no one could tell me anything. I was in the 9th grade when I took my first drink. I took a drink on Saturday morning. My parents did not see me until that Thursday. I never went back to school, so alcohol took my education from me. That's what alcohol did to me. It took all my father's dreams from him. In my 5th step, my father said, all I ever wanted was you to grow up, go to college, and be somebody, and look at you. And I called my father a weakling, and I called him all kinds of names, and I disrespected him. That's what I did once I got the alcohol in me. And I told him I hate him. That's how I talked to my parents. That's what alcohol did. It separated me. It separated me from my family. What I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous, how close I am to my fellow man, is how close I am to God. So when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 2nd step says, came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So in the end of that 1st step, everything I did, everywhere I went, I had a bottle in my hand. Page 23 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Go to page 23. And I mean, when you're doing your 1st step, you read about, you read Bill's story, you read the doctor's opinion, and in the doctor's opinion, it talks about we doctors have realized for some time that some form of moral psychology, that means change, was urgent to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our synthetic knowledge. So the doctors know what's wrong with us. That's what Dr. Silk, he knew what was wrong with us. He told Bill, don't drink. Just don't drink. And you hear that in the meetings. Don't drink. You see what I'm saying? My problem is not that, and you hear people, speakers say, I can't drink. My problem is not that I can't drink or don't drink. My problem is that I will drink. What does fish do? They swim, but what are they drinking when they swim? Right. Fishes drink. If you take the water away from a fish, what happens? He dies. And that's what happened to me. I ended up in the streets of Philly. I ended up everywhere. And when I would drink, ain't no telling where I would be at. I'm in Philly now, and it's the first time I ever watched the whole ride. I complained all the way down because I was walking. But I was alert. I could tell you everything that happened. Oh, these Paulos. He said we don't need 2 drivers in here. That's called untreated alcoholism. I didn't pray this morning. But anyway, so in step 2 it says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So when I finally got into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I knew, and I looked on the boards and they had them steps. And they had that 2nd step, and I said, now they're going to start talking about God. And I said, I can't have that. I don't want to talk about God. And I remember my sponsor said, God can't pray to God. Anybody ever heard that one? You know what I mean? And then in that 2nd step, I asked my sponsor, I said, you say that if I don't get a higher power and I don't believe in this God, then I'm going to drink again. He says, yeah, your problem is not that you can't drink, your problem is you will. My sponsor kept saying that to me over and over. Your problem is not that you can't drink, your problem is that you will drink. That's what alcoholics do. We drink. And if you don't have that psychic change, you see. And then it also says in the big book, and when we come here, go to page 30. This is how I was when I came here, on page 30, 1st paragraph.
Most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics.
Everybody raise your hand. Okay? How many people got this the first time? Raise your hand. 2. Okay, go ahead. Most of us. Go ahead.
No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows.
Bodily. I take a drink and it takes me someplace. When I'm not drinking, I'm thinking about drinking. How many of y'all can relate to that? Nobody likes to think they are bodily and mentally different from their fellows. Therefore,
it is not surprising that our drinking careers...
How many professional drinkers are in here? Everybody. Yeah. If you're not, you're going back out. Okay. Only the pros stick around. Okay. Our drinking careers have been characterized
by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker.
How many of you guys tried to control your drinking when you were drinking? All right, how many of you guys tried to control it and enjoy it while you wasn't drinking? Could you do it? Ain't no hands up, huh? See, that's the great obsession. That's what makes me keep going in and out. Because I want to control it and I want to enjoy it. My wife takes a drink and she's done. I take a drink with my wife and I'm going for 4 days. Happens all the time, you know. But anyway, but that's what it says. And then if you go to the 12 and 12, it says in the 12 and 12, if you go there, I'll just go there real quick. But if you go into 12 and 12, in step 1, it says the same thing. I shoot from the hip. I shoot both books. Okay? But in the 12 and 12, if you go to the first step in the 12 and 12, here you go. Read that. How many of y'all can relate to this?
Start from the top.
Yep. Who cares?
Who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one.
How many guys in here came in here and said, I'm defeated? Raise your hand. See, very few. Okay? Very few because they was beaten down. But most of us aren't beaten down when we get here. Or every instinct, go ahead.
Every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. It is truly awful to admit that. Glass in hand, we have warped our minds into such an obsession for destructive drinking that only an act of providence can remove it from us.
That's it. Okay? So if you read on page 23, now you could read page 23, these observations, because everything I said about step 1 would be pointless and academic.
These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body.
So they're saying the real problem centers in my mind. It's my thinking. That's what has to change. So when the speaker was speaking earlier, she said that her sponsor told her to shut up. My sponsor told me to shut up for 30 days. I got in my car. Why are you laughing? And I went to another town. And I said, my sponsor told me to shut up, but I need to share. I got back home, and my sponsor called me. He said, William, how come you didn't do what I told you to do? I said, how did you know? He said, 60 days. So I started disliking my sponsor automatically. So then when in 60 days, I went to another state to share. He said, William, how come you shared? I know where you went. I said, you know people everywhere, don't you? He said, it's about being honest. So I ended up not sharing my first year, not saying nothing. This is just torture. I don't advise this for anybody. But you said it, and it brought back a memory. And I didn't share for my first year. My sponsor said, I want you to take the big book, since you know so much, and I want you to bring it with you to every meeting you go to. And this is how I came to believe. And now remember, I asked my sponsor to be God because I didn't trust God. I need to go back there. And my sponsor said, I can't be God because they'll kick me out of AA. But I'll make a deal with you, Bill. I'll be God, but don't tell anybody. So that was the process of me coming to believe in step 2. So anyway, make a long story short. At the end of that year, I would go to a meeting and I would carry a book like Paul's got. I had a little tiny one, right? And my sponsor said, I want you to carry that book every meeting you go to. And he put the big book in one pocket and put the 12 and 12 in the next pocket. And we were doing the steps line by line. And he had my interest. I was, you know, he wasn't killing me because I wanted to do it. And he said, I want you to go into meetings and I want to make you are now the AA police. So I want you to keep your mouth shut, but you got an assignment. And every time they say something you don't like that saying ain't in the big book, I want you to find it and I want you to call me. And that's what I started doing. I did that for a year. After about 4 months, he said you could share. I was so mad at him, I didn't share. The whole year went by. How he got me to share was I spoke. I did a lead at a meeting, I led a meeting, and I told my story. And then from that point on, I started sharing. And I asked him every now and then, do you want me to share? No, carry the message. But that's what happened for me, you know, and that's what happened. And I would see people, and then all the people that shared that year, I attacked every one of them. Then I got me a book, a large print big book, like this. See it? See all the pages? And I carried it with me every meeting I went to. And people say, you don't need to carry that book. I says, I carry this book because I don't know everything. People that tell me not to carry the big book, And you can tell big book thumpers, they have it in their pocketbook. They have it. It's somewhere on. You see what I'm saying? I said, I don't carry this book because I know everything. I carry this book because I don't know everything. So if I'm going to show a newcomer something, I'm going to show them right out of the book. And that's what I started doing. So what had happened was, I'm sorry about the war story, guy. I just can't go there. The shootings, all of that stuff, the people dying, I just don't want to go there tonight. But what had happened was, in that process, you see, what is a newcomer? Someone tell me. There's two powers in Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay? There's the power of the fellowship. Okay? And then there's the power of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the spirit of the fellowship, which is found in the big book. The spirit of the fellowship is found in the big book. Okay? All right. Basically, what had happened was, in step 2, I took a guy that I know to this place called New England Tractor Trailer. And remember my train? I love trains, and then as a kid I got a racing set, a little racing set with the racing cars. And what I always wanted to do in my life was drive tractor trailer. That's what I always wanted to do. And this guy asked me to take him. And me knowing everything, I took him to this school, New England Tractor Trailer School. And I'm about 3 months sober now. And at about 3 months sober now, remember, I'm not saying anything, I'm not sharing. But on my 3rd month of sobriety, I'm walking around with 5 or 6 sponsees. Because my sponsor had already took me through the book. And now I'm sponsoring, but I'm doing it quietly. And now everybody I'm sponsoring in Hartford, in Connecticut, in my area, are carrying books like that. And my sponsor's looking at me, because he still carries a little small book, and he's looking at me. All right, so what had happened was, I went to New England Tractor Trailer, filled out the paperwork, and they asked me to fill out the paperwork, and I said, that ain't gonna happen to me. My record's too bad. I don't have no credit. I got all of this, and I got all of that, and I got records, I got felonies, and I got all of that. And I took the little thing. And what had happened was, I ended up passing. So I ended up going to school for tractor trailer. And, you know, I've been driving them since 1995. That's my career. I was also homeless when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, when we get to step 3, okay, that's just a little bit, okay? And I had nothing. And my wife, I've been with her 43 years, me and my wife, 43 years of marriage. I raised 2 kids, a son and a daughter. Jessie, she's going to school to become a lawyer. Donald, he hasn't gotten in any trouble, but he's, boom. All right. Also through the process of recovery, but he hasn't gotten in any trouble. But also through the process of recovery, my whole record, police record, has been erased. Okay, a judge did that. Okay, just a little story. I was driving around without license. I ended up going to court, and in the courtroom, the judge could look out the window, and I got my car and I drove off. My car didn't have no plates. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay? You make your own plate. You know what I mean? Then they catch you and then they give you a court appearance. And once they let you out, you say, bye, I ain't coming back. You know, failure to appear. I had all of them. Yeah, and I sat in front of that judge and I paid a $250 fine. Just real quick. I paid a $250 fine. I left the courtroom. I got in my car and the judge said, he's not supposed to be driving. His license is suspended. They sent the cop and brought me back. And the judge asked me, what would he do if he were me? Like that. And I said, doesn't make no difference with you. I played black card. I says, I'm black. Y'all don't want me to have nothing. I'm in recovery. See, I'm a victim. You understand what I'm saying? And he said, you're going to drive? I said, yeah. And the judge said, that's not what it's all about. He said, if you go pay all your fines, because we're not out to get you, and I'm not going to lock you up. He said, you leave here, you get in your car, take that car and get it out of my yard. He let me drive the unregistered car home. He said, get your license. At the same time, I was going to New England Tractor Trailer School to get my license. And I ain't had no license. I'm going to New England Tractor Trailer School. Everything seems impossible, okay? But make a long story short, he told me to tell my story. So anyway, make a long story short, I left there, and in a year I came back, and I had my license, and he made my whole driving record disappear. Not only did my whole driving record disappear, my police record disappeared. That's just a miracle, you know. But anyway, So what had happened was, on page 23, let's get back. Now we're just going to thump some steps for about 15 minutes, okay? Y'all want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so on page 23, he's going to go to page 24, okay? How many guys in here have a choice on whether they drink? Raise your hand. Oh, I can't get Philly with that one. I can't get y'all. This is not little. How many guys in here can choose whether they drink or not? You have a choice. You have a choice. How many? All right, if you have a choice, raise your hand, please. Be honest. It's about being honest. You can choose whether you drink or not. You have a choice. You can choose whether you drink or not. Yeah, you can choose.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? How many guys don't have a choice on whether they drink or not? Okay, I don't have a choice. I'm an alcoholic, a real alcoholic. I don't have a choice whether I drink or not. Okay? If you can choose whether you drink or not, then why come to a meeting? Why are you sitting here? Just stay home and choose not to drink. All right, hold on. I know you already read that. Now, what does the book say?
The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure,
We don't understand it. Go ahead.
have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink.
How many of you guys heard someone in the meeting say, all I got to do is remember my last drink, my last high? Raise your hand if you heard that before.
I've heard it.
Right. That's not what the book says. The book says at a certain time. The problem is, I don't know when that certain time is going to come. That's the problem. At a certain time, I'm going to drink again. And that certain time probably came over and over and over and over again in the 21 years that I've been sober. Why am I still sitting here? Through grace. Okay? Because I followed a few simple rules. Okay? Go to page 89. Step 12. What simple rules I followed? Top paragraph. Practical experience.
Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking.
Immunity from drinking. Remember, I introduced myself as a recovered alcoholic. Okay?
As intensive work with other alcoholics.
What did Bill Wilson do when he was going to drink? He found another drunk. He went and found who? Dr. Bob. And what did Dr. Bob say? How can I help you? Bill said, I'm not here for you. I'm here for me. You see what I'm saying? Intensive work. It works.
It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can.
That's what keeps me from drinking. You can help when no one else can. What else? Go ahead.
You can secure their confidence.
You can secure their confidence, right?
When others fail.
When others fail.
Remember, they are very ill.
Remember, they are very ill. Keep going.
Life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you.
That's the sponsees. They're growing up about you. Now you're sponsoring this guy. Your sponsor has a fellowship around him. Now you got a fellowship around you. Know what we call it today? We call it cliques. It's not a clique, it's a fellowship around that guy. You know what I mean? Because his radiance is glowing off of everyone around him. To have a fellowship grow up around you. And you notice, they're not saying we. Keep reading.
A host of friends, this is an experience you must not miss.
You must not miss.
We know you would not want to miss it.
He's talking directly to you, the reader.
Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives.
That's it. Now go back to 23. So how many of you guys think that if you remember your last drink, that'll keep you sober? Raise your hand. Okay? If the memory, read the second paragraph. The memory. Now, you hear someone say, all I got to do is remember my last drink? Look what this says. If these thoughts occur. Page 24. Sorry about that. Second paragraph. Third paragraph. If these thoughts occur. We're out defense against the first drink.
If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted with the old threadbare idea that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people.
Right. I was on the wrong street when I got that DUI, so I'm going to go on another street. Wow. Keep reading.
There is a complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on a hot stove.
How many people ever got burnt by a hot stove? I got my hand slammed in a car door. You know, I'll never put my hand in a car door. How many people ever got burned by alcohol? I'll put it a better one. How many of y'all ever got burned with crack? How many of y'all ever got sold soap? I got sold soap and went back to the other guy and said, hey man, this soap, you got something else? Keep reading. You have a choice, right? Okay, come on.
The alcoholic may say to himself in the most casual way, it won't burn me this time, so here's how.
Or perhaps he doesn't think at all. It's not a choice. We're powerless. That's what the first step says. We have no power. We do not have the ability to act to full capacity. We can't think straight. We are, how many people think, raise your hand, okay? What is insanity?
Repeating the same thing over and over again.
That's not what it is in the big book. Insanity in the big book is lack of proportionate ability to think straight. We lack the proportionate ability to think straight. That's what happened with Jim. Jim thought that if he mixed whiskey with milk, it couldn't hurt him on a full stomach. You understand? He drank on suddenly. So what happened to choice? Suddenly the thought crossed my mind, if I put whiskey in my milk, it will hurt me on a full stomach. What the hell happened to choice?
That's right.
The man that quit for 25 years, stayed bone dry for 25 years. What happened to him? He fell the victim to the belief that his long-term sobriety had qualified him to drink just like other people. Whatever happened to Joyce? He was dead within how long?
4 years.
Yep, dead. What happened to the jaywalker? We ain't gonna talk about him. That's every one of us. All right, what about Fred? Fred went to the hotel, y'all remember? Huh? You remember what happened to Fred? Fred went to the hotel, leisurely dressed, right? He said, you know what? How many of y'all talk to newcomers and they say, okay, I know what I got to do. I'm not like y'all. that's what Fred said. Okay? So Fred leisurely dressed and he said, you know what? Nice to have a couple of cocktails. That's all. And then he ended up in a taxi cab, like I did. I left work at Pratt Whitney Aircraft in East Hartford, Connecticut. I was in Philly. Don't know how I got here. No, still don't remember how I got here. I ended up places. Took my first drink. I'm walking down 84. 4 days later with the same clothes on. See, my alcoholic life was characterized by countless vain attempts to prove that I can drink like other people. You understand? So I have no choice. My choice has been taken away from me by alcohol. It took it. That's why they call alcohol the propacious credit. Say it. Propacious credit. So what happened? I go to step 3. Okay? And in step 3, if you go down to page, it tells me what my problem is. Step 3, it tells me what my problem is. And it tells me that page, I think it's page 50, 60, page 60, 58, 59, page 59. Go to page 59. We're going to go to step 3. We're going to tap that a little bit. Okay? We're going to just tap into that one. Okay? It says, a description of the alcoholic. Read that at the end of how it works. A description of the alcoholic.
A description of the alcoholic.
Step 1 and 2.
The chapter to the agnostic.
That's step 2.
And our personal adventures before and after make
Hold up. Our personal adventures before and after. When I was drinking in 94 and now that I'm not drinking. Okay? Not before the first drink and after. Because I have no choice. The book took that away. Okay? Make clear what?
3 pertinent ideas.
This is the spiritual manual of the 12 steps. These 3 pertinent ideas. A.
That we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives.
Hold up. How many people in here have a choice? Because choice requires managing. So I can't manage my own life. Even with 21 years of sobriety. I recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. I am not cured. Page 86, 85. You keep reading.
That probably no human power could relieve our alcoholism.
Don't drink and go to meetings. What's in meetings? Human powers. Probably is a drunk trap. If you think a human power can keep you sober, that's why they put probably in there. Then keep going to meetings and don't drink. You know what I mean? For me, keep going to meetings and not drinking is like me taking an overdose of X-Lax and telling myself I'm not gonna, you know what. That's how much of a chance. Go ahead.
That God could and would if we were salt.
Salt. Okay. Now there's a requirement in the first step and the third step. What's the requirement in the third step? Anyone knows before you read it? There's a requirement. What's the requirement? The first requirement's right there. The first requirement. Read it. Keep reading.
First requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success.
If I'm running my life on my will, it is not going to succeed. Under that basis, running my life, how many people here don't have a sponsor? Okay, he who sponsors himself has a fool for a sponsor. Fire yourself. And I'm not talking to you after the meeting. Don't come up to me. Don't start no argument. I'm not fighting in Philly. I can't run. Can't make it out of here. Y'all know how to shoot here. Y'all just don't. I just don't stand a chance here. I don't want to be laying in the street for 20 minutes before the cops come. Police don't even come around here. No, I don't mean right. You know that song? You know that song? Another one bites the dust. So there's a requirement. I have to be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Under that basis, I'm almost always in collision with something or somebody. Okay? Then it tells me when I'm running my life on my will. Read the top of the first paragraph on the top, or the next page, top paragraph.
What usually happens?
Yeah.
The show doesn't come off very well.
Bill begins to think.
Bill begins to think life doesn't treat him right.
Right.
He decides to exert himself more.
So now I'm telling y'all what to do. I do that in meetings when I was a newcomer. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to exert myself more. Go ahead.
He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be.
See, my problem is not alcohol. My problem is wanting to be right. Selfishness and self-centeredness. Go ahead. Because when you take the alcohol away, I don't have a sufficient substitute. I don't have nothing to take the place of the alcohol. So I'm going to meetings and I'm not drinking and I'm suffering from untreated alcoholism. Because I don't even have nothing to treat it now. I done cussed my sponsor out and fired him. How you going to fire a sponsor? Go ahead.
Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat...
Yeah, I'm a little bit at fault.
He is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indigent, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble?
As I'm not really a self-seeker when I'm trying to be kind. See, if I'm being kind to you, I want something. Y'all know that, right? If I'm being real nice, I want something. Okay, so that's why I have to do step 3. Okay, I have to do step 3 because of my selfishness and self-centeredness. Okay, turn the page. Top page.
Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles.
It didn't say alcohol, and I'm driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, you're looking at me, self-pity. Can I borrow $20? I step on the toes of my fellows, and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt me without provocation, without no reason at all. Anybody ever told you I'm sick of you, just get the hell out? That's what the women used to say to me, just get the hell out, get out of the house. That's what the jobs used to say, no, you're done, we don't want you around here anymore, without provocation. But I invariably find, go ahead, that I made...
Sometime in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt.
That's why we have no choice here, because we invariably, and what does invariably mean? All the time. I make decisions based on self, which later on place me in a position to be hurt. You see, that's why I have to make the decision. Go ahead.
So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making.
Bill's troubles.
They arise out of ourselves.
He want to include y'all. Go ahead, do it.
They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot.
I must be rid of this selfishness, or it kills me. That's what the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous do. We do not do the steps to solve problems. We do the steps to seek God. Same thing is said in the spiritual manner, to seek God. We do not do the steps to solve problems. Okay? Page 44. Okay? One more time. I'm just blasting these 3 steps to y'all. Okay? And what is my problem? What does it say? If a mere code of morals, bottom.
If a mere code of morals or better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago.
Don't drink. Go to meetings. Meeting makers make it. See, that's a mere code of morals. So they're saying that not even, slogans work in the beginning, but it's not going to keep you sober. Okay? If a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life, you know what? I'm going to move to the other side of town. I'm going to drink milk. How many of y'all went to the gym and still got drunk? Right, he's like, you know, people that went to the gym. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to read a spiritual book. If a mere code of moral or better philosophy of life was sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found, go ahead.
But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral.
Moral, I'm telling the truth.
We could wish to be philosophically comforted.
I know every slogan in AA.
In fact, we could will these things with all our might.
With the X-lax, go ahead.
But the needed power wasn't there.
Our
Human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient.
It
They
failed
failed
utterly. See it, guys? You guys understand what I'm saying? That's what happens with choice. How much time I got? 5 minutes.
An hour. You rolling.
You got a few minutes.
All right. You guys want to go through a couple more steps? Do you guys want to or not?
Yes.
Okay, I'll keep going. Okay. So in step 3, what had happened was my sponsor gave me all that information, and he reversed everything and put it all on me. Okay, and that's basically what happened. And he said that I was the problem. Okay, so when I got to step 4, it says next we launched out on a course of vigorous action. Okay, I was always looking at everybody else and never looking at myself, which most of us never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, okay, I decided to turn my will and my life over to care of God. Now remember, God was invented by white people to control black people, but I had to reconsider or die. Okay, so now by this time, you white people don't even think about that anymore. You understand what I'm saying? God was not invented by y'all. You know, God is a spirit. Okay? So he's not invented by white people, not invented by black people. Okay. So on the bottom of there, it says, why do we do a 4-step? Read it. Next we launched out.
Next we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of these things in ourselves which have been blocking us.
Remember, that's the work, guys. See, it works if you work it. The work is the strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things that's blocking me. So in the 4th step, I'm going to face and I'm going to be rid of the things that's blocking me. Okay? So now I'm going to make a list of all people I have harmed. Okay? And I already read resentment is the #1 offender. And the first one was my father. He took my train. Okay? Now I remember. Okay? He took my train and gave it to my brother. My brother destroyed it. Someone in AA said, stop talking about that train, and gave me a train in a meeting. So I put my father down. Okay? In the first column. And I put down what he did. He took my train. Okay? And then in the 3rd column, I wrote down what it affected. Alcoholics Anonymous is a beautiful fellowship. It is a fellowship that when there's something wrong with us, God gave us 7 basic instincts. Okay? And every time something's wrong with me, one of those instincts are out of joint. Okay? And what are those 7 areas of self? Anyone knows? Okay? My self-esteem. Okay? How I feel about myself. My pride. My ambitions. My personal relationships. Okay? My security. What's the last one? My pocketbook. Okay? When one of those are threatened to interfere, I will get mad. So if you haven't done the steps and you read the promises, and the promise says we will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us, right? If you hear that promise and you say, well, what's the 7 areas? If you don't know 7 areas of self, then you won't know how to handle it. You can say, well, is it my self-esteem being interfered with? Okay? So when my father took my train, what area of self was affected? My self-esteem and my pride. You see it? So that's basically what, so I wrote down that and I got to my 4th step. And in the 3rd column says, putting out of the wrongs others have done, I look for my own mistakes. I should have shared with my brother. Okay, so when the person gave me this train, the old timer, my brother just came from Florida, from Alabama. He's still drinking, he's still using, he had a year, he threw everything away in Alabama. Now he's back on the streets. And when he gets sober, I'm going to share this train with him. Okay, and I'm just waiting. I'm hoping that he gets sober. You know what I mean? That's why I carry the the training. So it's going to step 10, going to step 5, okay? There's some things that happen in step 5 that, and it tells me the 5 times that I drink. Okay, read the first paragraph in step 5, real quick. I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can, guys. The first paragraph.
Having made our personal inventory.
What should we do about it? Now, I got my inventory, right? Go ahead.
We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator.
Right, so I'm trying to get a new relationship with my Creator. We don't do the steps to solve problems. We do the steps to do what, guys? See God. So I'm trying to get a new relationship with my Creator. God is not created by white people. Okay? He's not. That's a lie. Good. I'm playing God. That's why I think that. Okay? Because I'm God. Okay, go ahead.
And to discover the obstacles in our path.
I'm going to face and be rid of the things that's blocking. Remember he read that? A strenuous effort, discover the... Okay, go ahead.
We have admitted certain defects.
I admitted it to my sponsor.
We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is.
Me, page 62.
We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory.
These are about to be cast out. So in step 5, I admit to God, to myself, and another human being the exact nature of my wrong. Go all the way to the end of that chapter.
End of the chapter?
Yep. Okay, and it's going to tell you, yep, to the end of that, no, the end of that step. Go all the way to the end. Okay. So these are about to be cast out. Okay. So you guys with me now? You guys still with me? Yeah. Okay. So they're about to be cast out. Okay. So to read the last paragraph. The promise.
Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done.
So I sat down with my sponsor. He read the promises to me. Go ahead.
We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better.
See, I know God better. See, I know what God is not. You know what I mean? I know he's not a pimp. You understand what I'm saying? You know, I know he's not a fire hydrant. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Pull in case of emergency. You know, only pray to God. See, my idea of God was I put God in a box and I nail it shut. And I put my little wheelbarrow like my little leaves and I run around with it. When something happened, I open up the box and I let God out. And then when it's all over with, I put it back in the box. And I wheel my little wheelbarrow around. You see what I'm saying? So I know what God is not. That's the most important thing for me. Go ahead.
Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps.
Right. So we read the 12 steps. Go ahead.
Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask, have we omitted anything?
Have I left anything out?
For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last.
Keep going.
Is our work solid so far?
Is our work solid so far? Go ahead.
Are the stones properly
Are the
placed?
stones properly in place? The first step is the cement. The second step is the cornerstone. Do I believe or am I willing to believe that there's a power greater in myself that can restore me to sanity? And the third step is the keystone. Okay? God is my father. 3 ideas about God. He's my father. This is what I know about God. He's my father. He's the director. And he's the principal. I'm an agent. I carry the message. Okay? That's all I am. I am an agent. Okay? I am a child. We're all sisters and brothers in here. This is the city of brotherly love. Okay? So we're all one family. Okay? We are his children. Okay? Most simple ideas are simple, but this concept was the keystone. To read the bottom. So I read the next page.
Have we skimped on the cement?
Go to the next page, step 6. Have we skipped? If we get answer to our satisfaction, we look at step 6. You have to be able to answer those questions. Then you look at step 6. Okay, then step 7.
When ready, we say something like this.
Remember the prayer we did in the 3rd step? God, I offer myself to thee. The thing about that prayer, it had no amen. So the work is what? He's getting tired of reading. What is the work, guys? The work is working against myself. It's not don't drink and go to meetings. It's constantly looking at myself. I am the most important thing that I can look at. I'm the only thing that I can change. The only thing that will change. And if I change, everything around me changes. Wow. You understand? The whole world changes because I'm looking at them through a new pair of glasses. Alcoholics Anonymous has gave me a new pair of glasses. I don't see things the way I used to see them. And when I see them wrong, I do like that lady right there said. I have phone numbers. I have people that keep me accountable. You see what I'm saying? I don't listen to the voice in my head. You see, because I tapped into an unsuspected inner resource. Step 10 says we continue to take personal inventory and when we're wrong, promptly admit it. Step 10 says we have entered the world of the spirit. It says our next function is to grow in understanding and effective. In step 10, I'm using my spirit to watch my behavior. That's what step 10 is. So Alcoholics Anonymous is a journey, but it has destinations. You guys following me? In our big book, it says we hope that every alcoholic who journeys, remember, journeying, drinking, will find Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. My destination is make it to the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not to come here and don't drink and go to meetings. You know, and then my next destination, my next destination is to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to care of God as I understand him. You see what I'm saying? And then my next destination is to enter the world of the spirit. Okay? And it says it's not an overnight matter. It should continue for my lifetime. And it tells me what to watch out for in step 10. It tells me to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And it says when these crop up. Not if these crop up. When. Because they're going to crop up. And it tells me what to do. It says, one, I ask God at once to remove them. At once I ask God to remove them. Okay? That's what it tells me to do. Then it tells me to make amends quickly if I've harmed anyone. In the Bible, it says, don't let the sun go down when you're angry. Because remember, resentment destroys more alcoholics than anything else. Resentment destroys more alcoholics than alcohol. Because alcohol is the glue that holds us together. It stops working. That's the problem. It either takes us out or it stops working. See? And that's what it says. You know? And then what happens when we do step 10? Page 85. And this is what happened to most of us. We try to live off of yesterday's sobriety. That's what somebody means when they tell you don't drink and go to meetings. It's easy to let up on a program of action.
It's easy to let up on a spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels.
Don't drink and go to meetings.
We are heading for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe.
Alcohol is a subtle foe. It's an enemy to the alcoholic.
We are not cured of alcoholism.
What we have
is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition.
Every day.
Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into our activities.
So what do we do one day at a time? We don't drink and go to meetings. We carry the vision of God's will into all of our activities. How best can I serve you, God? Your will, not mine, be done. These thoughts must go with us constantly. Much has already been said. Go to the last paragraph.
Much has already been said about receiving strength.
I receive strength. I have strength from this process.
Inspiration.
Paul has that. Inspiration. I have that too. Go ahead.
And direction.
And direction.
From him who has all knowledge and power.
Remembering how it works, he said, rarely have we seen a person fail in the first edition who have followed our directions. Remember they made him take it out? Well, he put it back in there. And what is the sixth sense? The sixth sense is the God sense. I'm God directed, not Bill directed. See, I have tapped into the unsuspected inner resource. I did not come to Alcoholics Anonymous looking for God. God met me. I can't say what day he met me, but he met me, and he keeps coming stronger and stronger. You see what I'm saying? The work is trying to help someone else. The difference between, I'm going to close with this, the difference between the newcomer and the alcoholic. You know, the newcomer is probably the most important person in the rooms. Yeah, they say that, right? Yeah. But I'm going to tell y'all something. Anyone that's got a lot of time in Alcoholics Anonymous and has not done the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is a newcomer. Because the program is the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The fellowship is named after the book. The program is the book. So if you haven't been through the steps, I don't care how much time you got. You're a newcomer. You know what I mean? You got a lot of days, but you ain't got no time. You know? I ain't fighting nobody after this. They'll walk up to you after this. What do you mean I ain't? You understand? You know what they're going to tell their sponsors? Stay away from that guy. Think he know it all. See, I'm just armed with facts about myself. That's what it says on page 17. But the newcomer. We were at a convention. Okay? And I love the newcomer. Okay? And they said we're going to have a poem contest. And they said the poem's got to end with Timbuktu. I'm going to give you this. Okay? The poem's got to end with Timbuktu. So they had this new guy from the shelter across the street. He only got a day's sobriety. Then they had this guy with about 25 years of sobriety. So they stopped the music and they said the poem's got to end with Timbuktu. Okay? The newcomer is very, very valuable. to me. I can only keep what I have by giving it away. You know what I mean? I, as a sponsor, set the conditions. We talked about that. The sponsor sets the conditions. Okay? The sponsor don't get you sober. God does. He leads you. He sets the conditions for you to find that higher power. The sponsor don't really care what higher power you find, as long as it ain't you. Okay? So the poem's got to end with Timbuktu. So they come back, the DJ stops speaking, playing the music. The guy with 21 years gets up there and he says his poem. This is why the newcomer is so important, because they keep it simple. I went overtime, but they keep it simple. But I didn't come here for nothing either. Okay? But anyway, his poem went like this. This is the old timer. It says, got to end with Timbuktu. And his poem went like